and welcome to the Truth Booth. This is Ask Me Tuesday, and I thought we would do something a little bit different today since I have two of my granddaughters with me here in Ecuador. We are so excited about that. I just asked Madeline if she would mind just asking me a question, and I'll answer her question. So I think this is kind of awesome too, because we talk a lot about like generational gaps and maybe not being able to converse or even knowing how to converse with somebody of a different generation. And we want to erase that myth.
Yes, definitely.
We really want to erase that myth. And I think it's a great conversation starter. So go ahead, ask me.
So I wanted to ask you, how has time in your lifetime changed the world for the better and for the worse?
Okay, so how has time in my lifetime, like how have I seen time?
I mean, because like obviously we can't start with Adam and Eve because that's a little.
It's a good point. That's a really good point.
Thing.
Okay, all right. So how has time in my lifetime? How have I seen time change the world for the better and for the worse? Okay, wow. That is a really good question. Wow, there are a lot of things, and I actually have thought about this many, many times. Obviously, we're going to try to do this really short, so I'll try to narrow it down. Let's start with, how has time changed things for the better? I think there's a lot of obvious things to all of us, so I'll start with some of those first, like medicine. You know, from when I was a child to when you were a child, medicine has progressed. We have a lot of answers for things we didn't have answers for before. So I would say like the medical field, obviously. But I think the thing I'd really like to focus on is how I think people of this generation, maybe like your parents' generation to your generation, are changing things for the better. I think that people a lot younger than me are taking the world more seriously. I see younger generation, like probably 20-somethings and down to your age, being very committed and focused to making a change in whatever small way they can. I don't think our generation thought of things that way. So you will think of things like, if I'm going to purchase something and I'm purchasing it from something that is for a good cause, I feel like I have a double win.
Right.
We didn't really think that way. At least not my circle of friends. We didn't really think that way. So I think just that, like, broader sense that there's people in need, that there are ways that I can help, even if they're really small ways, where I think maybe our generation gets a little overwhelmed with that and thinks, well, what thing could I do that would really make a change? Am I correct about that? It seems like younger people really do believe they can make a change. Yeah,
like I think in some ways there's still kind of like what you were saying, like was just like, well, the world's so big and has so many problems, like what can I do? But like I think a lot of people like just they make life choices to like better themselves and also to like better other people, and like I think that people genuinely are starting to care a lot more about charity and like things that like we as Christians have like kind of been pursuing throughout time. But like I think like from a worldly standpoint, like people are a lot more likely to come in on that. Even if sometimes it is for like kind of like a self-boosting reason, right? It can.
Yes, I do see that too. Because we're still human,
right? It still makes a positive change.
Yes. Another thing that I see that's awesome that has come with time for the better is that we're able to travel so much more freely now. That like, look at you. So you're 15 and you're in Ecuador right now. And I think that that's had a major change on things for the better, because I think we as a country used to be even more like ethnocentric, like only knew our own culture. But now people travel a lot more. They're able to travel to different places in the world, and so that
different perspectives.
Totally, it broadens your mind. It gives you a bigger world view. I think that's made a lot of changes for the good. So there's a lot of things, but I think those stick out the most in my mind. One more thing that I think is so amazing is that like I said, probably from your parents' generation down to yours, that look at things like homelessness, and they actually invest and do something about it.
Right,
More than just give money to the guy standing on the street corner. Or they look at things like orphans, and know that the Bible said that, you know, we are responsible to take care of the orphans. So rather than give to a foundation that's taking care of orphans or taking care of kids that are in foster care, I've seen this like very purpose thing, like even if this is going to be a sacrifice, why don't we take in the orphans? Why don't I have them into my home? That's something that nobody was really talking about when I was raising kids. No. So we adopted 2 children, but we were so weird.
Really?
Like, I didn't know anyone else, seriously, anyone else that adopted older children. It's like you would adopt a baby if you couldn't have children, but that's the only reason you adopted. People did foster care, and that is awesome. But I just don't think there was the same attitude that there is today. Like, look, even though this is going to cost me something emotionally, financially, and all of that, and you know, an investment of my life, if I really want to do something about children who don't have parents, why don't we adopt them? So things like that, I think, are just so different and so much better, and really making the world a better place. Things that I would say, how did you put it, that have like been not
changed for the worse?
Have
like, how does time change the world for the worse?
Okay, well, the first thing that comes to my mind with that, I think we've all become more selfish and self-centered. Was that around when I was growing up? Absolutely. Yeah. Because we know as believers that we are sinners and that we really are out for ourselves. That's the battle of our life. But I do think that as time has gone on, that we've become, we've all, I'm not going to say the younger kids, all of us have become, I think, more selfish. I think our country in particular, pushes independence and values it to such an extreme that I believe it goes directly against what the Bible is calling us to. The Bible calls us to community, to watching out for one another, to sacrificing for one another. I think that's something that time...
Like family-oriented households.
Yes, family-oriented households, or if you don't, you know, or you invite other people into your family household because there's so much brokenness going on. But I think even as believers, a lot of times our decisions are made for what is keeping me the most comfortable. Rather than what Scripture calls us to.
Because it's easier to do that.
So much easier.
So much easier.
And we kind of, it's our culture.
Right.
And you know, contrary to what the Bible would say, that we're called to live a life of sacrifice. We're to lay it down for each other. We're to lay it down for God. Our life goal is obedience. It really doesn't have to do with my pleasure, with my comfort. So that's something I think that I've watched get worse and worse and worse with every generation, but it affects all the generations, not just the most recent generation. So it has affected my generation even. It doesn't even look bad. It actually looks good. Like waving a flag.
Caring about yourself is supposed to be like, you know, like love yourself and like do what's best for you. When like they frame it like it's this great thing, when it's just, if you really think about it, it's like,
what scripture verse am I going to pull out to justify that?
Yeah, and I think it's annoying because I see a lot of people pulling out like God created me, I'm beautifully and wonderfully made and stuff. But like they're going completely against what God's like saying with the rest of Scripture. Like they're using it for their own agenda. Yes, but also sin is in the world, and like there's a reason why you shouldn't trust yourself. Like you're supposed to love the person that God created you to be, but you're also supposed to not trust yourself fully because you're not perfect. He also didn't create you to be God, and that made you susceptible to sin. So
I think I have a new partner for the truth. So those are the things that pop out first in my mind. I mean, the obvious answer, I think, too, is technology.
Oh, yeah.
You know, technology.
But that
And
that's its own conversation.
Yes, exactly, because it has its own good things and bad things. So I think everybody talks about that.
Right.
But those are the things that kind of come to my mind first, and that is a great question. And thank you so much for doing this with me. And maybe I'll talk her into coming on with me next week too. And I think that we're actually going to make some videos that actually address a generational thing and how we can maybe plug up the holes or the space or the gap or whatever you want to call it between generations personally.
Yeah.
So we're going to do some video on that too. So
Break
look
the
at
generational
that.
barriers.
That's right. We are women. We can do it, right?
Yeah.
With God's help. Oh yeah. Hi. Okay. Love you all. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
That was awesome.